In this short lecture video, we will be addressing how satellite images and remote sensing are used to monitor vegetation greening. The objectives of this video are to learn some fundamentals about remote sensing, especially multispectral remote sensing, which is what has been used in this research to monitor vegetation greening.
Above your head, right now, there are dozens of satellites, large and small, that humans have put into orbit around our planet. Some of them help us observe and understand Earth's land and water surfaces. Instruments like light detectors, distance measuring lasers, and even thermal detectors can all help us to understand the world, and they're flown on board these satellites. Multispectral sensors are the most important for measuring vegetation greening. At a very basic level, here's how these sensors work. Light travels from the sun towards Earth. Part of it passes through the atmosphere and reaches Earth's surface, and then some of it is reflected back into space. Multispectral remote sensing instruments record this reflected energy. But how can light waves tell us anything about plants? As we briefly reviewed in the last video, plants use sunlight for photosynthesis and energy. When light from the sun hits plants, they can either absorb that as energy or reflect it back into the atmosphere. Vegetation in particular absorbs and reflects unique patterns of light. Chlorophyll in plants absorbs a lot of red light for use in photosynthesis. But the cell structure of leaves, on the other hand, reflects a lot of near-infrared light. So, if satellites see those particular light patterns coming back from Earth's surface, we know there's plant life there. We'll talk more about these methods in future videos, but the important thing to remember is that by recording the strength and distribution of light wavelengths, particularly red and near-infrared light, we can study, monitor, and assess changes in vegetation greenness. One important satellite-mounted sensor used to measure and monitor greenness, and the one used in this study, is the AVHRR, or the Advanced Very High Resolution Radiometer. This remote sensing instrument has 5 detectors that can measure, among other things, red and near-infrared wavelengths, and therefore quantify the photosynthetic capacity of vegetation. An important benefit of AVHRR is that it has been collecting continuous data since the 1970s. Scientists call this temporal extent, the range of time between when a sensor was launched and when it is discontinued. AVHRR is one of the instruments with the longest temporal extent, so it can tell us a lot about changes in Earth's surface over longer periods of time. Another important characteristic is that AVHRR satellites pass over the same location on Earth twice each day. The frequency with which these satellites pass over the same spot on Earth is called the temporal resolution, so AVHRR has a very high temporal resolution. But everything comes with a cost. Like all other digital images, AVHRR images are made up of tiny pixels, the smallest amount of area on Earth's surface that the sensor can detect data for. This size of this pixel is called the spatial resolution, and on AVHRR sensors, that resolution can be up to 1.1 square kilometers. That can lead to a lot of coarse resolution data. But, as we'll see, in regional studies, this data can actually be quite useful.
In this video, we discuss satellites and sensors, and how electromagnetic waves are used to monitor changes in vegetation, such as vegetation greening. We also introduce AVHRR, which is the sensor that was used in this research. For reflection, think about or research about other sensors that are used to monitor vegetation greening.